All right, this one, Dr. Umar Johnson brought something up that actually is, I mean, this was one of these moments where I'm like, this guy actually, I think, as time goes on, he's going to become more and more poignant and really dial in some things that it's like, that's uncomfortable. Like, one of these things that he sort of stumbled on when he was with the subject he was broaching most recently about was fundamentally hip-hop a very, very bad thing for Black America, and it was a good beginning of a talk, but I thought you need a bit of context. Hip-hop did go back to the 70s. The earliest recording I found of rap music is 1975, and Numero Group republished it as a lost labels. Numero Group republishes dead labels, lost labels. It wasn't a part of the Eccentric Soul collection, which I highly recommend. Fundamentally, that's really what Black America lost, was soul. And there's no way around what has to be understood. The birth control pill and divorce is a white American middle class educated female thing that Black women took on as fundamentally a way of, one, sloughing off the morality, the tough Christian, Southern Christian Baptist morality that they were, they were raised with for generations. And remember, good things come to those who wait. Who remembers the Fugees song, where that is fundamentally, and the old people say, good things come to those who wait. I believe it was Wyclef Jean's Gunpowder. There was actually a time to quite remember. Remember Stetsasonic, Prince Paul's work. Prince Paul becoming one of the most prolific and important producers in almost all music in the last 30 years. Was it MF Doom comes out of that circle of people with his original early thing in KMD. There's a lot of this that's been forgotten. And then I would suggest talking to DJ Kenny Parker. He's got a brother, ICU, who's much darker. And not only about some of the stories from the old days, but honestly about why was Boogie Down Production, why was their sound like that? Why did Boogie Down Production said the Bronx keeps on making it, but Brooklyn keeps on taking it? Because the Bronx had the Great Gang Treaty of, I believe, 1975, if I remember correctly, that shows up in the documentary The Rubble Kings. Also, the Bronx had Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, and Jamaicans, hence the sound that Boogie Down Production had, that they had a very heavily Caribbean style, because toasting and kaiso or calypso was far more something that this was introduced to New York, Black America, by the Caribbeans. The Kings Under the Tent was a way of putting it. There's even a great interview with, oh dang, I don't think it's Kitchener. It's our man, the banana song, the banana boat song. He actually got some kings stumbled on him, Calypso kings, see him in New York, and they said, "Hey, you owe us some money." And so after a conversation, one of the things that they were saying, why don't you come down to Trinidad? And and in this interview, he was saying what an honor it was, because he wasn't really like a Trinidadian. He wasn't a real Kaiso man. He didn't consider himself a genuine calypso man, and it felt so good. And he basically felt like he would be doing something untoward if he were to suddenly be like, yeah, look, I'm under the tent, because he said he didn't earn it. There was a sense of honor, and then we have to go to the foundation of most hip-hop production, the James Brown Army, and Bobby Bird, and Bootsy, and all those people. And there's no way that this era of time can be discussed with, I mean, get on up, get into it, get involved. Says everything needs to be understood. You know, don't raise your hand. Don't raise your fist. You know, don't raise your fist unless unless you mean it. What are you really doing when you raise your fist? What are you really doing? And remember, we're supposed to forget James Brown was, though, a man with his own troubles, is also one of the most exemplary acts of black masculinity. We forget about a lot of soul music. When was the last time you heard about a black American Tamla DJ, a black American, eccentric soul? And when you hear the eccentric soul thing, you'll figure out, wait a second, Jizza and them had to have something to do with this. There's a number of record labels that I'm like, no, Jizza and Wu-Tang and Raekwon, they have to be in on this. But just silently, like silent partners. Because all of this old soul music is out there. I was in that scene, and I was one of the only black people that I ever saw. It was not popular among black people. This is about 10 years ago now. Just at the beginning of Trump's candidacy is when it kind of all started to fall apart up here in the Northwest, because white communists started showing up. Or were the white communists going to show up, because there's so many of them up here? And when were they going to start dressing down white guys in Doc Martens who were soul guys? Because soul boys, as the term is called, white soul boys wore Doc Martens and blue jeans, cuffed blue jeans, and so it became a uniform. So much of a uniform, it eventually became permanently associated with an entire portion of British culture. Very few people understand where all that came from, and the people who understand it, they sure wish, they sure wish something, a lot of that could come back and never die again, but it keeps coming back. Soul music keeps coming back. I wanted to put that out there because the Caribbeans really introduced a lot of this stuff. Calypso War, Growling Tiger Marciano, Attila the Hun, Lord Kitchener. Lord Kitchener is one of those that, literally, it's almost criminal that more black Americans don't understand not only why a Jamaican would name himself as a Kaiso man, Lord Kitchener, what the importance of it was. Because Lord Kitchener was the captain of the ship that, what's his face? From World War II, with the big old cigars in Britain. I can't believe it's Churchill. So Churchill was a hussar, a royal hussar, on Kitchener's boat as they hunted the slavers from the Islamic world who were still enslaving Africans. The guy going like this, that's Kitchener, if I remember correctly. So the British hate slavery. It might seem like once you look into it, the Pope was denied an audience with the royals, with Queen Victoria, if I remember, it's Queen Victoria, because she was like, I will not have a slaver in my presence. Well, or we, because she was queen. Queen Victoria, and to this day, Queen Victoria is remembered with fondness across the Commonwealth because she was so. We associate it differently. We call it the Victorian era, but our Victorian era was very different than the British Commonwealths. But most of that kind of rapping, toasting, while there are the guys like Dolomite, Blowfly, people like that, and there's more stuff like that. It's exceedingly hard to find. There's one guy, I think he's called something. It's like Hard Soul or something, and he has these songs. I mean, these are some ribald songs. I'm not even sure how these people were able to record these things, but that's the thing. There were black record studios in like people's basements. Black men, we remember what this comes down to is that a lot of old black women told us a lot of bullshit. And then the next generation of black women bought into that bullshit and told us more bullshit. And what this was is that a lot of these guys, like, look into Slim Shady. Okay, the guitar, the actual beat, that guitar going. Okay, that's Sadiq. Just listen to some of his music, and you'll be like, this is real gay. He might have been, but he also was a very good musician. And you look at a lot of these, there was a lot of men who they were musicians. They weren't tough guys. They weren't soldiers, and stuff. And so what now you have like two generations of black people like me, who I was the black guy in the AP classes, in the AP history and AP bio class. That's why I didn't take the shot, because I was in AP bio in high school and I understood they're not using real scientific language. And then after that, I mean, like, they've been robbed of the ability to be smart guys. And then the smart guys, they don't dig all this militant politics stuff. So what do they get called? They get called coons. I bet Thelonious Monk, he probably would look at it and be like, you guys are burning down your own neighborhood. This isn't going to solve your problems. This isn't going to solve your problems. And what would people call Thelonious Monk a coon? How about Isaac Hayes? Isaac's Mood. I mean, how many people have sampled Isaac's Mood? So it was the birth control pill and divorce. It doesn't matter that it hurts because there was my mama. That's what this is about. Thin-skinned people raised by liberals. Now this is the next one. Revolver News. I posted this in my community. The little posts you could do of text, and I post the article. Now there's been research done on how you raise your kids. If you raise them conservative, you get good outcome. Just like Thomas Sowell said, if your children are exposed to books and they see adults sitting and reading them, and it's expected that at some point you're going to have to sit quietly and read and be quiet. That's it. That's the whole game. I can't even tell you. I don't know. I didn't play basketball when I was a kid. I went to the comic book store with the Filipino kid, Rupert. Because I knew his name was... I knew Rupert, and so that's how then later I would understand, oh, it's like Robert and Roberto, and okay, then spent a lot of time around diversity, real diversity, and it did me very well. And I just wanted to put that out there to give it some context. I highly recommend the Trojan Records Calypso collection. I mean, just the was it the Village Ram? Oh, I mean, if I mean, did Bushwick Bill listen to the Village Ram before he wrote "My Mind's Playing Tricks on Me"? I mean, or, well, yeah, let me just say that. I mean, but Bushwick Bill, you know, I mean, just that person alone, and so I would suggest Willie D is still out there. Willie D even posted something very interesting lately about black nerds. Um, you say you want to be down with Willie D, but yet you find it difficult to listen to me. Oh, I know every lyric from Grip It on Another Level. Every single lyric. Banging on Wax. I know almost every single word. But De La Soul is my joint. And God, when I still remember seeing them in Seattle, and as he's and it was plug tuning, and it's playing, and everybody starts rapping, and Mace cuts the sound. Hold the sound now, and cuts the sound, and everybody. Well, from the Flower Girls, China and Jet, the button is pressing 89. We start the panic from De La Soul and a flex from Stet. The Jungle Brothers and their involvement in house music. Remember, we never discussed black people and house music. You could find whole long documentaries, interviews after interview with the men of house music. Now, where do you all think the house music diva came from? It was old soul songs. And then where did that come from? It came from when the British would go to these old buildings that weren't being used, you see, and they would play records, and they would trade their 45s, and they were just raving it up, as they called it, raving it up. Outside of London, where up north in, say, Wigan and places like that, so it became known as Northern Soul. Even though in London there was Southern Soul, and you could find interviews on that. I think Tricky from Massive Attack talks about, as he was a young cat when in those days, at the Bent Spoke and things like that, and the Flaming Torch and these clubs that were, I mean, they were the London clubs. We forget. We've forgotten so much, and so much of it was the men. We put the old men behind us, thinking that they were, niggas ain't shit, these old men, they knew more, they had forgotten more than we could have ever known. And, Umar, there's some of these guys, they're not going to be around much longer. Some of these old heads from Jamaica, Trinidad, Tobago, they're not going to be around much longer. You and that other guy who's always, he's actually kind of starting to kind of pull it together, where he's seeing like a lot of you young pro-black people are kind of a little, you need to get right. But I mean, his buck breaking thing, that was totally weird. That was one of those where I'm like, no, this is some N-word bullshit. I'm sorry, this is N-word bullshit. But yeah, so I just want to put that out there because, Kenny Parker, chat with him. I mean, because he saw hip hop actually begin. He was there before, and they even talk about with the Rubble Kings, and then they formed crews. The gangs were over, and then they formed crews, and then America even made, some Jewish people even made a movie about it. It was called The Warriors. It's funny how things like that go. And also, it wouldn't hurt to talk to, chat up Al Prophet and see if he's got, some people who he could hook you up. with some interviews, some of these like real G's from the old days who would have seen the difference. They would have known. They would have known guys who they're like, no, no, that cat, he couldn't be down. But he was, and eventually he went and did this and did that, and blah blah blah. And you guys know him as this musician. But back in the day, he was trying to be kind of a hard nigga, but that wasn't who he was. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like Warren G. Warren G, you're smooth. That's a Joe. You have to know that YouTube skit, that YouTube bit about Warren G. And Michael McDonald. It wouldn't even make sense. But anyway, I just wanted to put that out there, you all. Yeah, and if you get a chance to sample a little old calypso, it's pretty dope. God, there's one song in particular. I just wish. Oh, it's just so good. There's a thing of Calypso Kings. It's an old recording. There's one dude in particular that he has this line about, we have this much money in the treasury. We were doing this, and now they say we're broke. It was just beautiful. It was I gotta see it. And now Trinidad, they say we don't have a dime. And it's just so beautiful. And then people like Laurel Aitken, and his toasting, such as Laurel Aitken, The Big Fight, I believe it's called, and where it's Two Gun Reagan versus Whoppy King versus Two Gun Reagan, and it's a right and it's a left. Oh, look at Whoppy King, yeah, it was good. And Prince Buster, there's no way around the import of Prince Buster. I mean, just no way around it. I mean, you could barely even find most of his stuff in anymore for anything less than like $100. $200. You have to find reissues usually in digital format. There's one guy who, I remember he had found a whole playlist somewhere on YouTube of Prince Buster, and these were songs none of us, and we were collectors, none of us had ever heard. And they were like, yeah, you can't get these records anymore at all. Or you would have to know a Jamaican. You have to know Ernie B himself. That's deep crate shit right there. So, all right. Talk to you guys later. Peace.